once we get that new shining toy, you're going to be another 6 months figuring out how it works, right? So you don't even win really sometimes with that. And once you get that new tool, I think it's important to have an expert involved in it from the beginning. It's just like when we start driving, we don't just get in the car. That's a powerful tool. But yet we still get driving lessons, we still get licensed in it and so forth. So I think it's the same concept when we're getting these powerful tools, whether it's Basecamp, Google Workspace, we need to have an expert and some training involved in it so that we know that they're using it appropriately.
Is every member of your staff on the same level when it comes to tech proficiency? Is it possible you may actually be losing efficiency by employing tech? This week, we're joined by Alicia Pierre of Legally Techie. She specializes in legal-focused tech training. Now, we all want to get a lot out of our tech tools, but a lack of competence and a lack of training can lead to wasted time and wasted effort. There are so many built-in features that firms simply overlook. And on the other hand, firms can fall prey to duplicating tech. Alicia and I discuss how to avoid these pitfalls with tech training. We'll discuss how to assess your firm's need for tech training, how to structure and start that training, templates and naming conventions for files, and even time management techniques for using your tech. Ultimately, we shouldn't let the tail wag the dog where new tech is concerned, and we need to have our goals, our training, and our processes aligned before we employ tech in our workflows. There are a lot of great tips to get to, so let's start the show. I'm John Strohmeyer, and this is the 5-Star Counsel Podcast. The market for legal services is shifting, and lawyers who don't adapt will be left behind. This podcast gives you a competitive edge in today's market by sharing the client service lessons you probably didn't learn in law school or in law practice. Let's start the show. This episode of 5-Star Counsel is sponsored by Text Expander. Supercharge your team with the power of Text Expander. Now, I've been using Text Expander for years, and it's a huge help. I save hours every week by using the snippets to consistently generate pre-written text for communications. This saves me from being lashed to the keyboard, coming up with the right words, and then typing them correctly. I've typed it correctly once, so it's ready whenever I type the short abbreviation I chose. Text Expander does the rest of the typing for me. Now, I started using text replacement years ago to streamline and speed up my time entry. I had a few snippets that included most of the words that I needed for any entry. I'd enter that snippet and then delete the words I didn't need. The best part was not having to type the same phrases over and over again. Telephone conference with, office conference with, preparation for same, and on and on and on. I'm sure you've got the same stock phrases that you can type blindfolded and don't care to ever think about again. Ultimately, it means you can do more with the same resources. Less repetition, fewer errors, and greater consistency. Text Expander is available on Mac, Windows, Chrome, iPhone, and iPad, so you can use your snippets across your programs and platforms. For example, I can respond to a LinkedIn message on my phone, iPad, or desktop with one Calendly link, and all I have to remember is my custom abbreviation. 5-Star counselors can get 20% off their first year by following the link in the show notes or heading to 5starcounsel.com/textexpander. Hey, Alicia, thanks so much for joining us.
Hi, thank you, John, for having me. I'm excited.
Of course. So we were connected by Mike Whalen because he's very excited about your online training and what you're doing to help get law firms specifically into kind of a deeper usage, specifically on the Google platform. And while not everybody listening is going to be on Google, I think there's a lot that we can draw out from what you're doing, how you're teaching firms. So it's more platform agnostic because things have changed over the last year and a half. There's a lot to learn and teach. And really, I just wanted to bring you in to get some ideas on how to better train our staffs on getting better at tech.
Yeah, that's something I think, like you mentioned, the past year, a lot of firms in the legal industry are just finding we're caressing their way in the dark in a sense, trying to.
Or careening.
Yeah. Groping around. That's the word I was looking for.
There we go.
Yeah. They're groping around in the dark in the text and remote lifestyle. So it's exciting to see that they're coming around the corner in a bit.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think the thing to start with is, well, there's always so much to tech. And I mean, I know from being the associate in the firm who had to engineer a way to use Calendly at my old firm because they were still on Office 2010 and Calendly didn't plug in.
Mm.
I was way ahead on tech. And so now at this point, I just kind of assume everybody knows how to use it. I mean, it seems like there are kind of two versions of this story. The tech enabled people like me who are kind of dragging people along, and then the folks who have made do kind of know how to use whether it's Word or Google Docs and really are trying to get better at it. So, which group should we start thinking about first?
I think we should start with those who are trying to get better at it. And I think it's important because the better that you're trained on something, the more empowered you feel. It boosts your productivity, your confidence, and you really feel like I know what I'm doing. Because I think we all have felt that imposter syndrome, whether it's a new role or new business and so forth. So being able to see how you work, whether a new tool or a new environment, it's great. I think it's very important.
Right. So, with so much tech, maybe let's start with how do you normally work with firms? What sort of things are you being brought in to help them on?
So, one of the main things people reach out to me is whether they are maximizing their current environment in the tech side. A lot of firms, and some are mainly solos, who are using so many different applications and vendors, whether it's Dropbox, Calendarly, LawPay, so many different things, DocuSign. And I'm trying to help consolidate their life to just two main things, or maybe three if necessary. And then that comes so also comes with training as well. So,
Oh,
my favorite part.
yeah, that I will admit I am a person who loves grabbing a new technology. What are some of the but I'm hearing though we want to maximize what we're getting out of any particular tech piece. I already heard they're grabbing a bunch of different things, but where are people duplicating a lot of tools?
Specifically with Dropbox, if they already have Google Drive, I'm seeing a lot of them paying for the Dropbox business where they already have a cloud storage with that's included in what they're paying for. So they're kind of duplicating in that. I'm not a Google purist. I do like Zoom, but they do have options available, whether it's Google Meet and so forth. And so those are just some of the main things I'm seeing that a lot of times they're just not aware of or just not comfortable with because of lack of training.
Interesting. Yeah, because what Google Meet even was doing a thing where they were having like live closed captioning for their meetings.
Hmm.
I don't know if they're still doing it because I'm a Zoom, not purist, but a Zoom user.
Yeah. Yeah, they
And it
are.
was something, okay. It wasn't enough to get me to switch, but I did see that as something that was really neat.
Yeah, I like it too as well. Sometimes you can't really listen, but you want to be able to read. And I sometimes I wish I had that. And even when watching TV or something like that, I'm like, I don't necessarily want to have that in the background, but yeah.
Interesting. And so, has it been for the folks who are struggling to get up and using more of their technology for something like that Google Meet? Is it as simple as turning on a switch, or is it the deeper, like you're going to have to open up search consoles and try and figure out how to do this?
It's very much simple, just click of a button to click put on live captions, if that's what you're referring to. But I guess once you have proper training, again, you will feel more confidence whether it's putting on live caption or changing your background within Google Meet.
Right. And so for the trading that you're working with, how much are you kind of relying on content or maybe even outlines that, Google wants people to use this, but somehow the message isn't getting through. So what do you see as the disconnect between the tech company that clearly wants you to stay in their environment and people who are just struggling to keep up?
I think they all need a mediator. And that's kind of where we come in at Legally Techie because we're specifically for the legal industry. So when we get that update from Google, we figure out, okay, how can this apply to our clients? How can this apply in a law firm? And which is a lot different where if you see something, you don't even know how it really applies to you. Like, oh, I didn't even think of that. That's true. We do that. So that's kind of where we provide that for them.
Got it. Yeah, because I know I'm getting feature updates from Calendly, Basecamp, whoever it is in the tech stack that we've got. And half the time I say, all right, well, that's neat, but I don't see how that silos in or makes my life really any different or better.
Hmm.
I'll just keep using the tech as I have it.
Exactly. Yeah.
What are some of the things that you've seen recently where it's been a non-obvious improvement that really is there for lawyers?
So I would say a non-obvious improvement is being able to actively work on a document within Google Drive or a Google Doc at the same time with your paralegal. And that improves in the sense of time management as well and things just being moving along in a case. A lot of times we had the custom of, okay, I draft it, you send it, review it, you send it back to make change, and then it's just this back and forth of emails and but being able to work on something live and at the same time and just putting the comments and the suggestions and approving them right then and there, it just cuts the time incredibly.
Right, and it gets back to what you were mentioning about time management. Now that everybody's mostly working from home, if we have the ability to get together on something, it's less me hand marking up a document and hoping to hand it off to you and you translate my scribbles.
Hmm.
One of the things that has been great for me, and this even started before the pandemic, my associate would sit in the office behind me and I had my gigantic monitor. He was basically looking over my shoulder as I would go through and read documents. At this point, we have time set up twice a week where we're going to go through documents. I will open my screen, I will share my screen, and he's there watching me go through documents. Sometimes it's simple, I'll make the change for you. And other times, if I'm looking at a red line, I'm just highlighting in the PDF red line, I don't like this, change this. He at the other side, it's not as slick as the Google shared documents,
Hmm.
but this is what's working for us. And it's, like you said, managing the time better because he's getting that feedback immediately. He's also hearing from me as I'm doing it. And if he's got questions or he doesn't understand, we can make sure that he's getting that feedback and his answers immediately.
Yeah. And I think too, I love the idea of being able to get that feedback immediately. That's something that I think trainings provide as well. Once you hire an expert, you're able to see what's working, what's not working as well within the firm and how we can make it better.
Oh yeah, and it's part of that where it's the live training that I can't tell you, or I can't tell my associate, look, we're going to have to get you to do this type of gift and this type of gift. Sometimes it's going to be, well, look, we've never seen something exactly like this, so it's the less structured side. But when we start thinking about, well, how should we be structuring the training for our staff around technology? For the folks who want to get better at things, where and how should we start thinking about what that structure looks like for training?
I think we start from templates, and the workflow of how things should go. I am crazy about documentation. If I learn how to do something, I'm writing it down, I'm recording a screen. I need to know how to repeat this again or train someone else. So, whatever changes you make on how the case should flow, we need that documented. We need it updated within our SOPs. We need to make sure that whoever was our replacement can do that without me being there. So, I think that's the first big step is documentation.
Okay, and what should that look like for firms? Because it seems like this could be overwhelming. Let me write down everything I ever know how to do so that we've got the one 10-pound Bible. Is that what we're looking for?
You can do video recording as well. That's something if it's a big firm, I think they should have a dedicated librarian that, they have the budget for that, who is the one who's maintaining documentation. But if you are solo and you have 2 to 3 assistants with you, I think screen recording is perfect. Simple recording your screen and just walking through what you do and just saving it to your Google Drive under a folder named templates or training.
Oh, and yeah, and so it's all in one place. It's not
Yeah.
here. We're going to put everything in. We're going to hide things in different places and hope we can find it later.
No, no, no. Naming, format, everything, and making sure they're under 5 minutes because nobody wants to watch a video for more than 5 minutes.
Yeah, and so on that, when I hear you say naming it, do you have any sort of naming conventions that you rely on when you're naming documents like this?
Yeah, so When my templates, I always put T minus in front of it. I know from the beginning these are all templates. And regarding videos, I put out exactly what it is: how to X, Y, and Z part one, or how to X, Y, and Z part two. And quickly from there within Google, you can see the date of it. So if it's a newer way I found out I know I need to record another one, I just quickly see the date that this was recorded and see when the updates were made. And it's just like, okay, I need to update a new video.
Got it. So in the firms you're working with right now, what are you seeing as kind of their big challenges?
I would say lack of training. A lot of people just, I think it's so underappreciated in a sense of we assume, like you mentioned at the beginning, everyone kind of knows what should be done, but there has to be an order of procedure and it has to be consistent, of course, if and it buts, but there has to be an order of procedure and how things should be done, when they should be done, and by who. And I think we're not, a lot of times it's just up in the air, or a lot of people just, oh, I thought you were doing it, and so forth.
Yeah, when I think about orders, we've been working in my firm on kind of a daily triage of don't start responding to the fires in your email inbox until these 5 things have been done elsewhere. And we've ended up being able to kind of minimize stress because, look, if something's important, it shouldn't have come in by email. But at the same time, we also want to check email, just make sure there aren't any real fires, and then go do these 5 things first to
Mm.
ensure you've got everything in place.
Yeah, I love that. That's awesome.
One of the big pitfalls is going to be training and how to help people get better at things. But with everybody working remotely, what can we do to help our staff focus and get better on things?
Besides training on the tool, I think training personal development is very important as well, whether it's time management, communication skills. I mean, the way that you text someone or send an email, it's not the same as in the coffee break room. Now things are actually being documented in a sense. So you want to make sure that communications are done appropriately. Also, to maximizing your time, knowing when is your peak hours, and when you're not that productive. All that too, I think, should be taken into consideration.
Right, to figure out how you work best so
Hmm.
that you can take care of everybody even better.
Yeah.
When firms are getting started with putting together training plans, are there good first, like simple tasks that they should be focused on? Or are there things that they should be looking at as this is the maybe not the first task, but it better be one of the first that you get documentation on?
I think when approaching training, firms need to make sure the big picture is being realized and what's the end goal. I think as humans, we work towards what's the big picture? Why am I doing this? Once we have the big picture, a client is satisfied, you get a bonus type of thing. I think from there, we can work in, okay, how can work backwards in a sense.
Interesting. So, can you tell me like one firm where the big picture maybe wasn't what they thought it was, where you were able to kind of pull them out of it and say, no, your big picture is actually this is what you need to be focused on?
So I helped this firm realize that their big picture was the lack of organization within, than more of things being streamlined. So for things to be streamlined, they have to be kind of an organization of what triggers what and what needs to be put in and what needs to be put out. So that's something I was able to help them with.
We want to make sure that we know what we're aiming for because then it makes all the rest of our steps make sense. We can kind of classify and be more productive in what we're doing.
Yeah, I agree completely. Once you know the end goal and the big picture, it's a lot easier to make decisions and know why what to do. And I think that's something we can take in consideration as well.
And as an example, again, from me and my firm, I've been subscribed to and we've had access to Basecamp for the last year and a half, almost 2 years. And Basecamp, if you don't know, is project management software. So we can do internal communications, we can store documents, we can even bring clients in to their particular project. And we'd been kind of using it, but the vision was we wanted more seamless, secure communications. We wanted fewer things to get dropped through the cracks because somebody didn't hear something or somebody wasn't on the right email chain. And now even in the last month where we've made a big push of let's get more into Basecamp. And my operations manager knows that his fourth quarter goal is to get us really into Basecamp so that when we have new matters in Clio, it automatically creates the project and the task lists and the to-dos in Basecamp. Just so far, knowing that that's what we're going for. And the reason we're doing that is it's easier. I know when I ask my new associate, hey, I need you to follow up with all of these clients to get them to the next stage of their representation. There's a to-do for each client. That to-do isn't done. We can change the due date, but she's able to put in her notes of, I called this client, we left a voicemail. So I don't necessarily have to go ask her where we are on this. The software's telling me. And rather than this being a pitch for Basecamp, really it's getting back to your point from the beginning of maximizing what we have in our own tool set rather than figuring out how can I find some new shiny toy that'll tell me who's doing what.
Yeah, and once we get that new shining toy, you're going to be another 6 months figuring out how it works, right? So you don't even win really sometimes with that. And once you get that new tool, I think it's important to have an expert involved in it from the beginning. It's just like when we start driving, we don't just get in the car. That's a powerful tool, but yet we still get driving lessons. We still get licensed in it and so forth. So I think it's the same concept when we're getting these powerful tools, whether it's Basecamp, Google Workspace, we need to have an expert and some training involved in it so that we know that they're using it appropriately.
Right. It's the folks who have designed these tools have done their best, but it's a thing where we probably still need some level of training to figure out all the things that are non-obvious.
Yes, I agree, and tailored to the legal industry because
Excellent.
even non-obvious things that don't really apply to your firm, it's like, okay, I don't really need to know that. Yeah,
Right. No, the ones that we don't want to even think about. Well,
exactly.
Alicia, this has been a lot of fun. Where can our dear listeners find you if they want to learn more?
We have our Legally Techie Academy. It's academy.legallytechie.com, and it basically provides training within Google Workspace for firms that use it. Also, new videos come out weekly, and from there you can get in touch with us.
Excellent. We will have links in the show notes. Thanks so much for joining us.
No problem.
Thanks so much for listening. You can find more info on us and get your free white paper on client service at 5starcounsel.com. You can get in touch with me at john@5starcounsel.com. If you enjoyed the podcast, please subscribe wherever fine podcasts are found and leave us a review wherever you can.